Good afternoon. Hello. I think it is about time to start. To those of you who do not know me, my name is Ela and I am a Warsaw guide. Today I am in Łódź, not in Warsaw, 130 kilometers southwest of Warsaw. But why am I here? Because in the Jewish Historical Institute in Warsaw there is an exhibition, temporary exhibition called Uchwycić Getto, Capture Ghetto, and it is all about Łódź Ghetto. It turns out that in the institute they have hundreds, literally hundreds of artifacts from this ghetto in this city. Pictures, some texts, diaries. They also exhibit some products of the numerous factories that worked here during the Second World War. So I just got interested in the topic, and I've been since then several times. Some of you may have joined me on Piotrkowska Street tour, which is a prologue to this tour. It was a few weeks ago, and yeah, since then I've read a few books, I've watched a few films, and I suppose I'm ready to present to you the history of this ghetto in Łódź. There are some similarities, obviously, with Warsaw Ghetto, but there are quite a few differences as well. And one of the biggest difference, I think, is that in Łódź, actually, quite a lot of buildings survived, which for me is fascinating, because in Warsaw you have only bits and pieces, whereas here you have whole streets actually preserved. So a few words of introductions. As you know, maybe I assume Germany invaded Poland on the 1st of September 1939, and they entered Łódź on in the very first days in September, and at that time the population of Łódź was 680,000 people. 57% of the population were Polish people. Of Jewish origin was 33%, so around 230 people. It was the second largest Jewish city in Poland. Warsaw Jewish population was higher. It was 350,000 people, whereas here 230, still quite big. There was also quite a significant German population here in Łódź, around 10%. When Germany invaded Poland from the west, obviously, but on the 17th of September, Soviet army actually invaded Poland as well from the east, and they basically, Germany and Poland divided Europe between themselves, and Poland was divided into three regions. There was general government with Warsaw and Kraków. Kraków was made capital. Initially, Łódź was planned to be the capital, because for a month and a half Łódź was in the general government area, but after a month and a half, more or less, it got annexed to Reich, to Third Reich, because the Western Poland and the Northern Poland was incorporated into Germany. The east of Poland was incorporated immediately into the Soviet Union, but it was after the 17th of September. So as I said, 230,000 people, Jews lived in Łódź when the war broke out, but quite a few, I think around 60,000-70,000 actually left Łódź when the war broke out. They went to Warsaw, they went to the east, not expecting Soviet Union invading Poland. They went abroad also. But 165,000 Jews remained in Łódź. Now it's time, I think, to switch the camera. Enough of me. And today will be. It's not possible to cover all the area that. Oh, hello, Marian. Dzień dobry. I just noticed. I'm trying to. Hold on. Make it. Zoom it a bit. Here we go. Oh, too much maybe. Because this is the first building I survived. Let me survive the war, and this is the first picture that I want to show you. You can see that it hasn't changed at all during the ghetto times. Oh, hi Barbara. Dzień dobry. So as you can see in the picture, the building basically is the same. It's just that in the Second World War picture you can also see a German guard, because there was a Gestapo guard here. And there was a Gestapo office here, and they covered, sort of this area. There were the guard posts were like every 50 meters along a fence of ghetto. I will be talking more about the ghetto, how it was created. I just want to start moving, not to stay in one place for a long time. So I'm starting from this building, and in a minute I'll give you a further description of the ghetto. Now I'm turning around and to show you the area Rynek Bałucki. Bałucki Rynek. Actually, you need to use your imagination a little bit and think of this area. Those buildings over there, the tenement buildings, probably remember the times, but during the Second World War, when ghetto was made here, actually quite early, because in February 1940, to remind you, in Warsaw, ghetto was established, was closed in November that year, so 9 months later, whereas here almost immediately it was leading to creating the time situations led to creating this ghetto. And here, so you need to use your imagination. There were no trees. There was a big square here. This building is obviously new. There was no grass. It was just empty square, and in the square there were built wooden barracks. And Bałucki Rynek was there, as Oskar Singer wrote in his Łódź, in the Łódź Chronicles of Ghetto. It was the heart and brain of Łódź Ghetto. Here was the sort of, some called it even Downing Street. So the main, sort of government, Judenrat, had their main office here, and Rumkowski, Mordechaj Chaim Rumkowski, the head of the of Judenrat, of the Jewish community in ghetto, ruled here. Here, there are quite a few pictures actually that I can show you. Apparently 1,400 photos remain. So let me show you here Rumkowski. Here on the left you can see a little bit of the wooden houses, and Rumkowski is this in the group of the 4 men, and he is the guy with gray hair, and with his back is Hans Bibo. Okay, let me now show another picture. If I'm trying to close this one. Oh, how it's quite chilly, so my fingers are cold, and I find it difficult to manipulate the pictures on the screen. But yeah, let me show you now again. Rumkowski on the left and Hans Bibo on the right. Hans Bibo was the admin, the head of German admin. Rumkowski, as you can see, is stigmatized with the Star of David. That was the requirement of Jewish people to wear those you know, the Star of David. And Hans Bibo was originally a merchant from Germany, from Dresden. I think he was in Dresden. Let me check to be accurate. I have it in my notes here somewhere. Hold on. You can see in the back. You can see the window, the wooden window. Coffee merchant. No, I don't have it here, but yeah, he was a coffee merchant, and he was the head. He was like Schindler in Krakow. It's just that he didn't really help Jews. In fact, quite opposite. After the war, after the ghetto was closed in 1944, he escaped to Germany, and he was caught there by American army and transferred to Łódź here, and he had a trial in Łódź, and he received death penalty. He was hanged after the war. Again, this, you know, as I said, there were main offices, so to speak, here, but also around, and basically this area also was the main area where produce food, for example, would be brought here. Also, all the products that were produced in Łódź ghetto was collected here and then sent to Radegos, to the train station, and also to Radegos, further down to the right, I think, so to the east, I suppose, of Łódź. We won't manage to get there because the area of the ghetto was quite a big area, even a bit larger than the one in Warsaw, so it's not possible to cover all in 1 hour walk. So basically in this area also the coal fuel was brought here and distributed. So obviously this area needed special guarding. There were 2 gates, and this area within ghetto, which was fenced, this was also fenced. This square to protect the goods. There were 2 gates. One from Zgierska Street. I'm now in Zgierska Street. And one where the Gestapo that I showed you guard was. Maybe one more person that I'd like to show is this woman. Okay, this is Dora Fuchs. Dora Fuchs was a secretary, assistant to Rumkowski, Mordechaj Chaim Rumkowski, the head of the Judenrat here, and she was born in Hamburg, of Polish descendants, Jewish descendants. So she was fluent in German, and she worked for Rumkowski not only as a secretary but also as a translator. She survived the war. Unfortunately, she never published any memoir, as far as I know. She spent some time in Israel, but in the end, I think her final years she had in the States. So she was his Rumkowski's right hand. As I said, I am in Zgierska Street, and Zgierska was the main, one of the main streets in Łódź. It actually further down and connects to Piotrkowska Street. And Germans decided to keep Zgierska as the main artery. Show you those tenements, buildings. Remember the war. Same here. They just need some renovation. in most of those buildings there would be factories. They would be little workshops that would produce goods for things like, you know, bags, anything you can think of, you know, sort of bags, umbrellas, hats, obviously not for people living here, but for Germans. They were then collected in Bałucki Rynek, just behind me, and were taken to Germany. Labor was enforced on Jews, and at one point as many as 95% of the Jewish community, of the Jewish prisoners basically of ghetto, because they didn't choose to live here, they were forced to live in ghetto, so they worked for free. It was unpaid slavery, almost work, 12 hours a day. Zgierska Street was one of the main streets, and it remained a main street, and you can see there are tram rails, and there were trams going through Zgierska Street during the Second World War. But, like in Warsaw, in Elektoralna Street, Jews couldn't use the trams. So there were fences, you know, along this street and the other side of the street. Okay, and initially there were some gates, 2 gates, that were opened on a specific on specific hours during the day, and then Jews could move from one side of Zgierska to the other, because the ghetto was on both sides of the street. With time, very soon actually, like in Łódź, there were footbridges made, and I'll show you the footbridges. There are quite a few photos of footbridges. So they are well documented here. It's very quiet on Sundays. Bałuty is the district, like Rynek Bałucki. The name of the area is Bałuty. Bałuty was, still is, I think, it's not the wealthiest district of Łódź. It is in the northern part of the city, and it was mostly occupied by Jews living in Łódź, and so a ghetto was created here. And like in Warsaw, before it was created, when the war started, there were a lot of restrictions put upon Jews. So the restrictions were tightening together with food ratios, stigmatizing people. A lot of, you know, with time the property was taken away from them, and they were forced to move to ghetto. I am in another quite important square, church square, Plac Kościelny, and this church is quite an iconic symbol of Łódź Ghetto. Yes, Catholic church. The church was erected at the end of the 19th century, and actually Israel Poznański, one was the richest people, not only in enterprise, not only in entrepreneur, not only in Łódź, but in Europe probably. A very rich guy. He sponsored some of the church, the flooring. Before this church, there was another church here, a wooden church, and Poznański sponsored transfer of the wooden church to a different part of Łódź. But this was a Catholic church. This was a Catholic church, and it was closed when the war started, when the ghetto started. But it is quite an important building for the history of Warsaw Ghetto, to remember it, because here it was turned into a warehouse during the Second World War. And for example, the warehouse where clothes were transported from Chełmno up on Ner, the river Ner, they were brought here of people who were executed in Chełmno, Jewish people who were executed. Like Warsaw people were taken to Treblinka. Here in Łódź, Jews were taken to Chełmno nad Nerem, and they were even taken already in December 1941. 1941, the execution started there. The executions were made in vans that were with gas that was, sort of exhaled into the van. Yeah, so they were just gassed in. People were gassed in those vans. And so clothes of those people were brought here, and then Jewish people who were here, they were supposed to somehow, they sort of clean the clothing, and many times those people who selected the clothes here, they could see clothes of people, of their clothes, family. Hard to imagine. But yes, this is what happened here. Later there was a feather warehouse and duvet warehouse, and it was called a white factory. I'm standing here because I want to show you this building, because around this square I'm looking at the... Hi Cynthia, Barbara, cześć. Did you want to say something? Because I can see you said Ella. Do you have a question? Please ask questions if you have any questions. I'll be looking. Sometimes I forget to look at the chat because I'm so, involved in a story that I can't remember, but I promise to look at it. Anyway, here is one of these are typical plaques that the city of Łódź puts to commemorate, to remember places connected with the Litzmannstadt-Getto. So anyway, let me finish this bit. So this was a site of registration office, General Ghetto Registry, Statistics sections and archive, the Rabbinical College and the Ghetto Post Office. The Chronicle of the Łódź Ghetto was written and compiled here by personnel of the Statistics Division. The Chronicle of the Łódź Ghetto. This is what I want to mention, because this was an officially created chronicle here in Łódź Ghetto. It could have been censored, so people who wrote it, they knew that it would be censored, but it is still a very useful document and historic document nowadays. It remained. Yeah, we can, unlike Ringelblum archive, this was an official document, and so, but it's still not the whole truth is there, but you can still, for example, all the speeches of Rumkowski, a lot of documentation is preserved, over 1 million cards, pages, 1,400 or 1,000 even, I think, pictures, 14,000 pictures. So quite a documentation. I said there is quite a lot of pictures, so the first one I want to show is, hold on, quite a lot of photographs here remained. So this one, for example, this one maybe, okay. So this is because okay, let me close it now. And there is a picture of a painting that you can see. So you can see the church. Let me move the picture. Can I move the picture? Yes. So that would be the image. So very often from this office here, from the windows, painters would paint, photographers would photograph the. You're happy to be here, Barbara. This is all. I got it. Yeah, it's quite happy you are here. So you can see that the bridge was from here to the other side of the street. Now let me. This is a building, Zgierska 24. Zgierska 24, where Alina Szapocznikow, she was of Jewish origin, sculptor, made a career after the war. She survived the war. She came from a family of doctors. Her mother was a doctor, and her father probably as well. And she helped her mother during the war in ghetto hospital. She was Alina was a nurse, and after she survived Auschwitz-Birkenau, because this is where Jews were transported after ghetto was closed in August 1944. At the end of August, when Warsaw had Warsaw Uprising, and the ghetto had already been closed for a year. The area of Warsaw Ghetto was already in ruins. Here Jews were still in ghetto. It was closed in August 1944, and whoever was left, except for I think less than 1,000 people, were taken to Auschwitz. And Alina Szapocznikow was taken there. She survived the war, and she studied in Prague, Czech Praga. I want to stop here. In Czech Praga, actually, let me pass the street because I want to show you something. She studied in Czech Praga, and then she continues her studies in Paris. She didn't want to live in communist Poland. So and her mother, because they were separated, and Alina thought that her mother didn't survive, but in fact, this is to show the wall in the pavement. But Alina's mother survived, and she found Alina in Praga, in Czech Praga. So that was one of the few miracles that actually happened. Okay, I wanted to show you this red building. There is a series of buildings behind the church. One of them similar to this one that you can see. Let me see if I can get closer, zoom it, so that you can see. This one actually was Kripo, criminal police. Going back. Criminal police, Gestapo, tortured people there. Initially they were just to, to guard the ghetto and to stop black market and smuggling. But in the end, finally they developed in the cruelty, and they basically tortured people to get information from people. They were infamous for being very cruel, and there was even belief that any Jewish citizen who would get there would either never got out of the place or would leave it disabled. I read Rivka Lipschitz was a teenage girl, and she wrote a diary during ghetto, and she didn't survive, unfortunately. She was taken to Auschwitz, and she probably was killed there, but she, until late spring of 1944, she wrote a diary. This very interesting story. Anyway, and in the diary, in one of the entries, she mentions someone. I can't remember whether it was her friend or someone she just knew, or someone from her family, but she said that the person was taken to Kripo and they only broke her hand, so nothing really happened. Okay, so that was, they only broke her hand. So that was known for cruelty, this place. I recommend, this is, the diary is quite interesting because there is an interesting story of the diary itself. It was found in Auschwitz by a Russian, Soviet female soldier after they liberated. Shall I cross the street? No, maybe I shouldn't because I leave it. I leave the recording, so okay, waiting for the light to change. So a female soldier, she found the diary. The diary was in Polish. She couldn't understand, but fortunately she didn't destroy it. She kept it, and in the end, the diary was found in the States. It was sent to Anita Friedman, who wrote sort of something about the story in the diary. This was headquarters of the Jewish police, because there was also Jewish police. Okay, and Jewish police was set up by Rumkowski, but there was also, obviously, Jewish police was also in the in Warsaw Ghetto. Jewish police was basically for guarding the ghetto fence and for keeping order, but with time they also became, those Jewish policemen became, some of them, pretty cruel. They also assisted in executions, they assisted in transportations to extermination camp. A book that I recommend for reading is for you to read is Arnold Mostowicz, who was a young doctor in ghetto, and so as a doctor he worked in a sort of medical emergency unit, and so he saw a lot of situations, let's say, and he also mentions Kripo and one story there, and actually thanks to, and Arnold Mostowicz survived. He was sent to Auschwitz as well, but he survived, and so he wrote this book. The book is called I think Yellow Star and Red Cross. Thanks to Arnold Mostowicz, we actually have an account of a gypsies area that was Romani's areas who were transported here to Łódź, and he was delegated there. Yeah, the Kripo office, they called a doctor. They called a medical emergency to bring a doctor to Kripo, and everyone in the medical emergency was scared, immensely scared. They didn't want, no one wanted to go there, and so they sent young doctor Arnold Mostowicz to Kripo, and it turned out that Kripo just needed someone to accompany them. Jansen, the officer Jansen, needed someone to accompany him to this, sort of area where Romanis were held. And thanks to Mostowicz, we know what this area looked like, and this is probably one of the very few, or the only one even, account of what happened there. They had even worse conditions than Jews living in ghetto. And this is thanks to Mostowicz that we have this account, because they were gypsies were sort of holding a small building. In one building there are about 5,000 of them, maybe not one building but a very small area, and it was really cramped, crowded, no sanitary sort of facilities, and so very soon lots of lice, very soon typhus got there, and so they needed a doctor to sort of describe the situation. And Arnold Mostowicz was the one who went there. He describes very interesting, quite a lot of, well, interesting in the sense that informative, details of living here. So I recommend it. Okay, another interesting area. This is, again, you need to use your imagination. Obviously, this is a new block, the block that didn't exist. Bushes didn't exist. It was just an empty square. This building survived. Plac Strażacki. I don't think the name exists because this is Zachodnia Street. But yes, it used to be Plac Strażacki, Firebrigade Square. Before the war, there was a fire brigade station here, right? And there was also a coach station. This building remembers ghetto times, and this square was often the square from where Rumkowski used to give his numerous speeches. I have a picture to show you. There is a photo of Rumkowski giving a speech. You can see the church at the back. You can see this building behind the picture, and you can see Rumkowski speaking to Jews. Okay, now maybe I should just make it smaller, because so that you can, no, I cannot make it smaller. Apologies for this. So you can see the building. Rumkowski. Who was Rumkowski? Rumkowski was, I think he was in his early 60s during the ghetto times. Before the war, he was an insurance agent, and earlier he was a head of an orphanage in Łódź. And in September 1939, so immediately after Germans entered Łódź, he was made the head of the Jewish gmina, Jewish community, and this position was maintained when ghetto was opened. Basically he had, Rumkowski had sort of unlimited power. Well, obviously in the ghetto, right? But he was a communicator of Germans' regulations, Germans' orders to the Jewish community. But within ghetto, he actually could create offices. The admin was quite a big organization. There were quite a few institutions. There was a post office, several post offices. For example, there was a post office in the church square next to Kripo. I forgot to mention it, but there was a post office there. There was hospital. So quite a lot of offices around ghetto. But with time, Germans requested certain numbers of Jews that needed to be transported to Chełmno for executions. And Rumkowski was the one who communicated this to the Jewish community. The most famous speech that he had here in this place was on the 4th of September 1942. 1942. It starts with the words, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, give me your children. There was a request from Germans to deliver 20,000 people to Radegast, to the train station from where Jews were transported to Chełmno nad Nerem, under Nerem, to be executed. And the request was to have, in the first instance, ill people, elderly people, people above 65, and children until up to the age of 11, because they didn't work. Okay, so they were not productive, and so they needed to be, get rid of, executed. And in Warsaw there was a similar regulations, and Adam Czerniakow, on receiving such an order from Germans to pass on to the Jewish community, he committed suicide on the 22nd of July or 21st of July 1942. Whereas Rumkowski had his speech here where he said, mothers and fathers, children and brothers and sisters, give me your children. If you want to listen to the whole speech, Tobias Menzies, on YouTube you can find a British actor performing this speech, Tobias Menzies. If you insert Rumkowski or the beginning, brothers and sisters, give me your children, this probably you will see the speech. It's a 10-minute speech. And so Rumkowski is considered a very controversial figure. Very controversial figure. I think with time, the sort of evaluation, assessment of what he did was somehow met with more understanding. But at that time he was hated. He had unlimited power. He was considered dictator, and like a king of ghetto. There was Łódź ghetto had its own currency. The currency, which is unusual. No other ghetto had the currency. Here, currency was called Rumki, from the surname of Rumkowski. It was obviously a kind of tool for isolation, because the currency didn't mean anything outside Łódź ghetto. Okay, so but they had their own currency. To close it. A friend guide told me that when she came here and she stood in one of the places, she basically felt shivers. She felt the spirit of the place. So yes, this building remembers the speech, remembers Rumkowski. And indeed, between the 5th and 12th of September 1942, on the whole 15,000 people were transported to Chełmno. Rumkowski believed that, and I think he said that actually, that limbs need to be cut off so that the body could survive, the whole body could survive. Those trees and bushes wouldn't survive here. You can see, I'm not sure whether you can see, I'll show you in a bit, the church behind the building. So there were no bushes or trees that much in ghetto because people used, fuel. Fuel was necessary, to survive those harsh Polish winters in those times. Yeah, the temperatures would drop to -30 at that time, and it was difficult to get coal. In Bałucki Rynek, sometime when you were lucky, you would get, the coal was distributed, but otherwise, very cold winters. I want to stop here. Can you see the rails? This is Zachodnia Street, the rails here. There was, in 2007, those rails, there were rails before, tram lines, yeah? The tram lines were before, and in 2007 there was a renovation of those rails. They were replaced with new ones, and workers who were replacing the old lines, they saw bones, human bones in the ground, and so investigation was made, and it turned out that those bones were bones of Jewish people who were buried here, because there was an old Jewish cemetery in this area here. From up there where the new buildings are, there was a Jewish cemetery that was opened in 1811, I think, and was in operation until 1892, when a new cemetery was set up in a different part, not very far from here, but not very close to this place. And so this cemetery was kind of closed before the war. During the war, Germans used macevas for maintaining roads. In the communist times, communist regime forgot, in inverted commas, about the cemetery, and somehow people forgot about this until 2007. So in 2007, there was, those bones were exploded, and what happened? The main rabbi of Poland was called in and to discuss the matter, what to do, and he called a special rabbi from London, who is the chairperson of the Committee of Protection of Jewish Cemeteries, and they made a decision that, on the cemetery there will be put a slab of metal, and in the slab there will be like 96 millimeters gap so that air could get in, and the gap would be filled in with rods, so that the gap is still there, and it was put on, between the rails and the cemetery. I think now I'm ready to, because there is this tradition that there should be some. You can see it's a bit different shape. There is this tradition that they are stopping. There should be some air between ground and the cemetery, and you can see. I'm not sure whether you can see, but let me bring it closer. I think this thing here is probably to get some air as well. Okay, final look at Zachodnia before moving on. Checking for time. Perfect. I am in Bazarowa Street. Bazarowa, from bazaar, from the word market, because indeed there was a market here before the Second World War, and again there wasn't. You can see now I'm approaching the area, the bazaar, Plac Bazarowy. Now it's called Plac Piastowski, different name. There is a park during the war there wasn't any trees, there was no grass, it was an empty area. And on the 21st February 1942, there was the first public execution organized by Germans. Cologne printer. Cologne, you know, the city in Germany. I'm not sure whether I pronounce it correctly. Kolonia in Polish. Max Herz, a Jew who was one of the many Jews from Germany who was deported to Łódź. He managed to escape ghetto. He went to the train station, Łódź train station, and he wanted to buy a ticket. And when he was taking out his hand out of his pocket, a band with a Star of David fell down on the desk of the cashier. So he was caught, and the first execution was of him here in the square. In the square, and 8,000 Jews that were deported, transferred here to Łódź, were forced to come here. They were brought here to watch the execution. And this place is associated with executions during the Second World War. There is a stone commemorating those awful events. You can see me mainly. I want you to see the text. Okay, Bazaar Square, Bazaar Plac, site of public executions of ghetto inmates. And around this bazaar there were also quite a few offices. There was another post office here, and I'll be showing you. I'm entering Rybna Street, Fish Street. So I am. So yes, this is another difference between this ghetto and Warsaw Ghetto, that here Jews from the West were, and from the Czechoslovakia, but also from Germany, from Belgium, Luxembourg, from Netherlands, were transported to 15,000. Were transported to Łódź. Okay, there is another plaque here. Side of the accommodation department, the food rationing department, the new arrivals department, and the deportations commission. Here the commission prepared lists of Jews from other parts of Europe for transfer to the death camp at Chełmno upon Ner. The site also served as an assembly point for individuals scheduled for execution. The street is, as you can see, quite, not these maybe buildings, although this building may be old. It just after the renovation it lost all the elements of the old building. Hopefully when they renovate the other buildings on the other side of the street, they will remain, they will keep the elements of the facade. As you can see, it's quite run down. area. Okay, I want to cross the street. So again, here were lots of workshops. Let me show you some pictures actually of, they were not called workshops. Shops were those factories with forced labor. Shops were used in, for example, in Warsaw, whereas here I want to show you several pictures of the work in shops. This is actually a kitchen. This picture. This is kitchen because there were some kitchens for Jews with soups once a day. If they were lucky, they could get a soup. But let me also show you some workshops. Here you can see children above the age of 10 working. So yes, Rumkowski believed that thanks to having those numerous factories here in Łódź, Jews will survive. Jews will be needed and they will be kept. And indeed, Łódź ghetto, I think, was the longest time at the ghetto here, was because it was from February 1940 until, as I said, the end of August 1944. The area wasn't destroyed, maybe because it was also Reich, Germany, incorporated into Germany. And then Soviet army actually they didn't manage also to destroy it. And more people survived actually, around 12,000 people. It is considered that 12,000 people survived ghetto, not in the ghetto itself, but in Auschwitz, for example. Here there was 1,000 maybe left after the other people were transferred to ghetto. Why am I here? I am here in Rybna 14A because here Isaac Lejzerowicz, an artist, painter, he lived here with his father, and he had his salon here. Let me show you a picture of Lejzerowicz. He was a well-known artist. Hold on. Here it is. Thank you for joining my tour. So as I said, it was the longest taking into consideration time of existence ghetto in Poland, probably. Closed in August 1944. There were Jews those that survived, they would come here after the war, but most of them didn't want to live here. The communist regime, most of them left. 5 minutes. It will be the first time I am using public transport on my tours. Looking at my notes, I mentioned, where to look for more information about this, and I can recommend these books that I mentioned: Arnold Mostowicz, Yellow Star, Red Cross, Rywka Lipszyc, Diary from Łódź Ghetto, but I think more informative. She talks about her feelings. She was a very young girl, a young teenager, so obviously she hasn't done any analysis of the situation. She talked about her feeling, about, her growing up, really. She wanted to be a writer. She talked about her friends. So to understand her feelings, I think it's obviously useful reading. David Sierakowiak diary is the one to recommend for, sort of information. Five notebooks remained. Again, interesting story. He was taken with his family to Auschwitz, and he died there. We don't know exactly the date, but that's where he was taken. And he kept his diaries remained in his flat. And someone who lived in the flat before the war, they came back to this flat and they found the diaries. 2 of them disappeared, it seems, but 5 of them remained, and they are a fantastic source of information. This Viennese Irene Hauser diary. She wrote this diary between 15th of June 1942 and 8th of September 1942. She may have been, that was the time when she may have been deported to Chełmno. This speech, recommend the speech, Give Me Your Children's speech, Almeida Theatre, Tobias Menzies, and the film that is available on YouTube, Photographer. It's again quite an interesting film because it is made of photos taken by I think the person is known. Full color pictures of the ghetto. They were found in Vienna in an antique shop and developed, and it's quite a amazing film made in the 90s, and Arnold Mostowicz is one of the narrators in the film, so you can see already he is an elderly person, the guy who was a doctor. Perfectly. So join me next week, maybe even slightly later, about this time, so that the illumination look nice. And until then, stay well. Dziękuję bardzo. Trzymajcie się. Cześć.